A special thank you to my Tier 2 patrons Rex Perry and Silent Storm 00, and all of my patrons so far. Hello friends, Big Stupid Grin here. In today's State of the Investigator, we're checking out the latest promo investigator, the game's strongest magician, Dexter Drake. Dexter Drake is absolutely fascinating. Is he just a refresh of Akachi? How often can you use his ability? How much should you build around the awesome Molly Maxwell? Is there toolbox deck potential here? How much rogue should you include, considering how powerful Mystic is right now? Is going asset heavy even the best idea? I've had a lot of fun playing him, so let's check him out. This is my final spoiler warning for starter deck cards, since they've been shipping as of this video. Drake has some pretty beefy stats. He has 5 willpower, 2 intellect, 3 fight, and 2 agility. A very Mystic 6 health, and 8 sanity. I always mark out for a 5 in a skill. 1 extra point in a skill check can make a huge difference. On normal difficulty, in many scenarios, being +1 on a test is around a 55 to 60% shot, but being +2 is usually around a 70 to 75% shot, and you're closer to avoiding failing on the token draws with real consequences. Tony Morgan is a revelation as a fighter, in part because 5 fight unlocks so many weapons for him, as does for 32 Colt waving Mark Harrigan and fist throwing Nathaniel Cho. Dexter's deck building requirements are the Mirror of Sophinas, Mystic 0 to 5, Rogue 0 to 2, and Neutral 0 to 5. Rogue unlocks many different possibilities for him, but the main thing is assisting with Drake's economy, which we'll talk about in due time. His ability is very exciting. It is a fast action. During your turn, discard an asset you control, play an asset with a different title from your hand, reducing its cost by 1. Limit once per round. It avoids many things: an action, a resource, potentially an attack of opportunity, and potentially doom if you discard an asset with doom on it. Mystics who rely on assets with charges can feel slow to play at times, and Dexter can work a bit faster. His Elder Sign gets an A grade. It's not always relevant, but when it is, it is. It is +2. You may return an asset from your play area to your hand, then draw 1 card. +2 is good. With the stats, you have a decent chance of passing the odd encounter check for a weaker skill. The ability can be used fairly often for 3 situations: returning a spell asset to play with fresh charges, replaying an ally to heal damage or horror on him, and returning an asset with doom on it. You can't plan on it unless you want to purchase Seal the Elder Sign, but when it helps, it really helps. Economy has historically been an issue for Mystics, and Dexter does better than most with a B+ grade. I compare him to Agnes Baker. Both investigators can draw upon tricks in their off-class cards to help out their economy. A trick that Dexter can do that Agnes can't is playing assets for a free action and save resource that avoids attacks of opportunity. Running out of charges while fighting is not a good thing, especially since Mystics can sometimes lack a plan B. Rogue has some interesting options for extra actions as well, mainly quick thinking, but haste is an interesting option, albeit one that takes up an arcane slot. Rogue especially helps out in resource generation. Lone Wolf is the gold standard outside of 4-player games, but we also have Easy Mark. David Renfield is especially great with Dexter's ability, making him extra productive and extra easy to dispose of. A first turn Renfield in a scenario with a high agenda threshold level could give you 3 or more activations for 6 to 10 resources, 1 +2 +3 +4, and so on. For card search, Arcane Initiate is as powerful as ever, and maybe that's a tier list idea down the line. And here comes the Molly Maxwell discussion. She is an ally that costs 3 resources to play. She has a willpower, agility, and wild icon. She has 2 health and 4 sanity. Dexter Drake deck only. Replacement. Fast action, exhaust Molly Maxwell and deal her 1 horror. Name any trait. 1 at a time, reveal cards from the top of your deck until an asset with the named trait is revealed. Draw that asset. Shuffle each other revealed card back into your deck. Her biggest weakness is that you're only allowed 1 copy of her. Calling in favors should be considered if you want to fully exploit her ability. If you don't, she's tanky as it is, and can act as a 3rd copy of Arcane Initiate of sorts, grabbing spell assets. And there's nothing wrong with that. But where she can really excel is digging through your deck for more specialized assets. Because you search for a specific trait with her ability, if you run only 1 card with that trait, you can grab it with 100% accuracy. The list I put up is not a complete nor curated one, so I'll talk about some highlights. Fine Clothes is a great situational card with the clothing trait. Parlay actions are generally pretty valuable when they are presented to you, and Fine Clothes makes the majority of them easy to pass. Robes of Endless Night works well with the same slot/trait. The soak for both is decent just in case, and it's cheap. Liquid Courage has drawbacks for sure, but has the illicit trait for Molly to search out, and it's very cheap to play, potentially free with Dexter's ability. You could try Thermos instead, but it's much more expensive and has no uncommon traits to go look for. Since healing is so situational, it helps to be able to search it out rather than run more healing cards in your deck for consistency's sake. If you want to add to your stats, Recall the Future is a great card that you can search out with the Augury trait, a conditional unexpected courage each round when necessary. Talent assets are both very good and very plentiful in options. There's Lone Wolf, Sign Magic if you want to go to 3 Arcane slots. Arcane Studies has an interesting level 4 variant in the starter decks. Spirit of Thame and Enchanted Blade are both great for Dexter and share the same traits, so I'd choose one or the other. Crystalline Elder Sign is great and also has synergy with Clairvoyance and Azure Flame. Finally, many allies and Mystic have unique traits, so with Charisma, it's very easy to assemble a posse for Dexter Drake. Clue Gathering is next, and I'm kinda shrugging my shoulders and assigning a B, maybe B+ here. Mystics have gotten a lot more consistent over the years with new spell assets and events. Recently, we've gotten Read the Signs and Clairvoyance. Dexter has access to Intel Report from Rogue. Not sure if that's better or worse than Drawn to the Flame, but if you want to play as a specialist, then why not both? The issue of Mystics is still the same for those not named Luke or Marie. Dexter's actual Investigate stat doesn't help us much here. After playing 3 Intellect Fighter specialists and occasionally picking up the odd clue or two, I do think this makes a real difference. You will have to get set up to investigate, and some locations will work against you in some scenarios. When things are going well, Dexter and Mystics are very capable investigators, and Dexter's ability saves you part of that setup disadvantage. They'll just never be equivalent to a 5 Intellect Seeker or even 4 Intellect one, so I don't feel like a higher grade is appropriate. With Sixth Sense existing as a permanent answer of sorts, I'll settle on a B+ over B if you're specializing as a clover, B if you aren't. Dexter's a little bit better with enemy management, B+ to A-. Like with fellow 3-fight Mystics, Enchanted Blade is good with Dexter, swinging at a fight stat of 5 with 2 damage when you empower it, and the level 3 version is even better. Dexter's natural 3-fight, 4 with the blade you don't empower, or 5 with the Spirit Athame, is also good enough to kill weaker enemies like rats and whippoorwills without spending charges or resources, and that's always nice when appropriate. I haven't had great success with Spectral Razor. It's good on paper, I just don't find myself using it a lot. I don't see a lot of high health enemies that aren't elite, and most of the time I'd rather use charges on fight assets. If you are flush with resources, it is a good way to finish an enemy off. Having access to Ethereal Form and Rogue means you can play the evasion game fairly well as a last resort, in spite of Dexter's low agility. High Willpower, Ward of Protection, Deny Existence all provide a high grade for encounter card defense. There are a million good events for Dexter, but Stargazing is another good option. I really like that card in multiplayer games, since you can help others with it, and you should draw stars aright more often. He has weaknesses in the form of low intellect and agility, and sometimes those are targeted by treacheries, but generally speaking, willpower is the stat you want in this category. A grade. Drake's a little worse on skill testing. The issue here is a lack of good skill cards, or at least the lack of room to run skill cards. Manual Dexterity and Perception are a little too situational to run for him. Rogue skill cards are situational by nature. Honestly, I don't always even run Guts with him. As an option, the excellent Premonition can take guesswork out of tests. I'll say B- because a decent amount of skill testing is willpower, and at least we have Recall the Future. Tankiness is a little bit more difficult with Dexter Drake, and I give him a C grade. Spell assets have a nasty tendency to hit you back, and it really hurts when you miss an attack while drawing a bad symbol. Double that with Retaliate, and triple that with the enemy phase, and Mystics can take damage really quickly. If you want to run double Arcane Research, Dexter starts a campaign with 6 health and 6 sanity. Maxwell is a good tank for the price. Arcane Initiate and David Renfield are always disposable. Depending on preference, you can run Robes of Endless Night from the starter decks or Fine Clothes for your body slot soak asset. Bulletproof Vest is a valid blast from the past. You can grab it through the armor trait with Molly Maxwell. Deny Existence and Word Protection can also avoid a lot of damage. If you want to run double arcane research in a traditional 8 scenario campaign, perhaps with additional standalones added in, I would make the case for a copy of Deny Existence level 5, at least one. And the dream is Diana Esperance with Deny 5 as well. Mystics and Dexter by association are decent support investigators. Stargazing is a nice choice in higher player counts. He's a great target for you handled this one. Open Gate can really shine in the right scenario. Scroll of Prophecies is nice for card draw, a little bit on the expensive side I suppose. 2 things to consider for campaign play. When people are picking investigators for campaigns, thanks to the influx of new cards, many Mystics can now play as a specialist as well as a generalist, which is a nice way to fill out your group makeup. And secondly, with Adaptable, you can adjust your deck to include more healing or other support to help with your group as well. B- grade, but an optimistic B-. Dexter's weakness is Yastaroth, and for the most part, it isn't too bad. It is a Curse and Pact weakness. It's a replacement trait. Revelation, put Yastaroth into play in your threat area. You cannot put assets into play. As a double action, you can discard it. It's an inconvenience for sure, but I'll take minor inconvenience weaknesses over damaging ones 100% of the time. A-. Decklists. I'm still figuring him out, to be honest. Dexter has so many valid cards, balancing everything has been difficult. How much rogue can you include? Going asset heavy? Which events are best? Guts or no guts? First up is my decklist from Dex and Finn's playthrough of the War of the Worlds campaign. Dexter's role was to primarily fight, cluver when he could, but free up enemy killing duties from Finn, who then concentrated on clue gathering and evading. The other list I have is an idea for a time-worn Brand fighting build. It uses Crystalline Elder Sign with Brand to swing for 6 fight and 2 damage, plus the opportunity to empower the Brand to swing at 10 fight plus will and 4 damage, once for each blade. Since we're sealing the +1s, I'm including Azure Flame and Shards of the Void to combo off of that. Twyla Catherine Price can help you keep stocked with charges, so Charisma is a good choice. Alternatively, you could try on Lonnie Ritter from the Rogue starter deck. While I played Dexter Drake, I originally compared him to Akachi, but now I think he's closer to a mystic version of Leo Anderson. I generally use Dexter's ability around 3 to 5 times per game, and it's always nice to find an opportunity to do so. Dexter can make for a great specialist as well as generalist, so he can fit any role. In true solo, he's a little fragile, but you can build around that. Next up, I'll probably dive into starter deck investigators. If you have a specific one in mind, let me know. I'm Big Stupid Grin, hope you had a good time here, and until next time, have a good one.